All right, it's Monday, June 10th, 2022. I am Chad Zumach, the Z-Man, the Lawson's Chip Dip consumer, the has-been baller, the captain, Florida's greatest, Florida's most wanted, coming live and direct from Tampa, Florida. Joining me is Tony MAZUR from Scene Magazine's hit award-winning podcast, Mondays with MAZUR. You can also listen to this on the Check Your Brain podcast, which you can subscribe to on iTunes, anywhere you get podcasts, and Patreon. Tony MAZUR, how are you?
I'm doing well. I think I should be called your first mate at this point.
Well, it's your show, so I should be the first mate.
No, it's a little bit of both. I mean, we're kind of co-captaining the yacht. You know, we're
both steering the ship together. We're holding the wheel together.
Yeah, it's a very nautical term called the wheelhouse, and I think this is in our wheelhouse here.
When did Opie get coined the captain? Do you remember?
I don't remember him. Was that an off-air thing? I don't remember him. I just know about the steering the ship thing. That was kind of like it basically was figured out that he's only a radio guy and he's not as funny. That Opie's a really good radio guy when all you need is a radio guy, when you don't need an otherworldly talent like Anthony Cumia or somebody, or Jim Norton can come in there and kind of mop up the mess. And it was a perfect storm for that show, because I think if Jim Norton did not come on by, that show would have ended 20 years ago.
So he was a glorified board op who would just do rejoins and all that. He just more or less would set it up. And then he grew resentment because Anthony and Jim were the funny ones. And that's when the animosity kicked in.
There's a whole thing. Yeah, there was a big fight with them in another show called JV and Elvis. And they kept calling Opie a board op. And boy, did he not take that too well. It's like, oh, I'm a board op? Am I a board op? Yeah. I mean, you're a board op who introduces the segment. There's a great clip. If anyone's a big O&A fan, if you remember this, this was the years, I think maybe 2013. These were the years between Patrice's death and Anthony getting fired, where they just weren't trying. And there was a whole, if you look up Opie and Anthony Alice theme song, and they start talking about the Alice theme song, and then they go on to talking about the Ropers, which was obviously the spinoff of Three's Company. Sure. with Norman Fell and what Mrs. Roper's name was, and they had Jeffrey Tambor on there, and they just start riffing and just start laughing, and you just hear, and it's Jimmy and Anthony are just laughing like crazy, and clearly Opie's like, all right, well, they're gonna do this. I guess I'm just gonna sit back and play Candy Crush today. It's embarrassing.
Wow. It's just like, you know what? I don't know. I've always been a team guy. If something's going good on the show, let's ride that bitch. I don't care who's getting the credit. I don't care. But it's amazing how people's egos get involved. We're like, oh, I need to be the funny guy. Know your role.
Well, I will say, though, there is, I could tell it's got to be an ego trip where you don't mind it at first because you're making money and you're getting success. But then it probably gets to a point where you're like, man, you know, some people think I'm pretty funny too. And maybe you have somebody at a gig who comes up and says, you know, I actually think you said some pretty funny lines. You're pretty funny yourself. And then you start going, yeah, I am funny. And then you sabotage the show because you may be funny to your friends and family, but you might not be to everyone else. So I don't know. I mean, look, I say this as somebody who is a radio guy who does a little bit of stand-up, and realize that if I'm in the same realm as like, you know, a Dave Landau, like any of my contemporaries, I guess you can say, I have to sit back and just let it go and just realize these people are so much more funny than me. So my job here is to make them look even better. But that's not everybody feels that way, apparently.
When we did that podcast, that legendary podcast on the football show with Rich Voss, Doug Stanhope, and Burt Cronin, those was one of those situations where you just got to hang back in the cut and be a sniper. And that's all I did. Like, I was not only enjoying the show, but I'm picking my spots.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing about we were talking about when you were on with Cumia a few weeks ago, and Gino just sabotaged the show. Ugh. Just completely took it over. And I felt bad because there's a lot of situations with people that they want to jump in and get funny lines and they want to be out there, but you got to know your place. And that's what was tough. I always said it was tough doing Misery Loves Company, is because it was Kevin's show, and it's hard to really jump in, especially when he's on a rampage about, vaccinations or a bike shop or whatever, whatever the case was.
There was
Do you remember Kevin Brennan? He was a comic who was pretty big at one time and had a podcast.
Yeah, I vaguely remember. It's like, it's slowly fading away like a show. But with that being said, yeah, I remember one time I actually, because I did the show 3 days a week, and you get to know somebody over a year and a half, you get to know them pretty well. There was a 6-minute rant he went on where I could not get a fucking word in. I was just sitting there. Like, he wouldn't even give it a breath. And then I went to say something. He just cut you off real quick. I'm like, fuck. That was a hard
especially
show
doing
to do.
it over Zoom. It's one thing
brutal over Zoom. Brutal. And when people attack me, like, dude, you didn't say anything. I'm like, you tried doing it over Zoom with that fucking maniac. Like,
this is what every Zoom call is like. No, you go.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna. No. See, never mind.
Yeah.
You really want to, as a listener, do you want to listen to that?
And even on Kumia's show, there's like a 2-second delay. So when you're calling in Zoom there's like a delay. So that's a hard show to do too, especially with Gino in there.
Oh, it just, you can't have anybody on the phone then.
No, you might as well
online.
he should have just cut me loose and made your dumb credit card jokes and just called it a day.
Yeah.
Which is becoming hack, by the way. It's very hack. Like, your little credit card jokes. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah. Funny. I mean, there's so many fucking, you're just so clever on how you're mixing it.
See, and then in the last time we did release this podcast, you end up getting COVID. That's the most hack thing ever.
I know. I gotta be honest with you. I thought I was over it on Friday, and I had a show Saturday in Fort Myers. Shout out to Steve from Patreon. He came out by himself. I did 2 shows, and I gotta be honest with you. I was real fucking tired the second show. The next day I felt really run down. So I thought I was over it, but I'm really not. I mean, I feel fine, but I'm still a little congested, a little lethargic, but yeah, I thought I was good go. I was in the green on Friday, but I'm still a little sick. I'm not going to lie.
Well, it's probably you're going on stage. I mean, it's not like it's one thing where you're like, oh, I'm just driving to the grocery store right now, where you basically save up that much energy to do this. But when you do podcasting and you're doing this is work too. Like, we're not just bullshitting just because we want to. It's work. So you're mentally wearing yourself down.
Yeah.
So that's probably why you got done. And you're like, not yet.
Yeah. You do 45 minutes, then you do a meet and greet, and then you sit between shows, and then you got to like ramp yourself. You got to follow. I've had to follow a host, 2 guest spots, a feature who did 30, and then I had to do 45, and I'm spent. And I drove 2.5 hours.
Second show. How were you after between shows?
I went and took a nap in the car. I went in the back seat and just laid down because I was just like, oh man, I gotta chill out, because my voice was going too. I was very congested. I hadn't spoken that much that week. There wasn't a lot of speaking going on. So, especially, I scream a lot in my act, and I you got to perform, amplify.
Did you address that you had COVID?
No.
Okay. So you didn't want everybody like, oh, by the way, I'm still recovering from COVID. Hey, where is everybody? Where you guys going?
There was a guy in the front row where I hit a punchline, and everyone started laughing. I gave him a fist bump. I go, I just gave you COVID, and the place went loud. But
there you go.
Little did he realize
they don't know. Some people don't know unless they linger longer. Yeah. But are you feeling better today? It's Monday.
I'm a little lethargic, but I'm fine. I just rode my bike. I was, got a little vitamin D out there. This is whatever this variant is. I don't know, the fucking Omicron. Everyone should get it and be done with it. Herd immunity. Let's get back to work. This is not worth shutting down businesses or compromising our way of life. I don't feel great. I don't feel great, but it's not worth compromising our lives. It's not.
Yeah. Get it over with now. I mean, there's not much going on. I mean, you probably have gigs and stuff, but there's not much going on in January that you're going to be missing a ton of. I mean, you just, okay, so I got to stay home and I'm not feeling well for a week. Okay. Then you're back out. It's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, no, I think by the way, this is their Hail Mary, this, because the next variant's going to be weaker, whatever that's going to be. So they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this variant. And I think this is the one you need to get. Just get it, because you feel like shit for 24 hours and then you're fine. That's all I'm saying.
If you didn't get Delta or any of these recently, then just go ahead and lick doorknobs. That's what I say. Just go and lick a doorknob, go over to a subway turnstile and just start sniffing it. And, you know, just everybody just gets sick. Don't wash your hands after you touched a public train, anything like the handles on the train. Just go for it, get sick for a couple of days, then we're on the other side.
It's funny. It's like, I said something and somebody had messaged me because I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not on Twitter. I'm not checking that mentions and I'm just posting gigs. And
did you open a Getter yet?
I can't. It won't let me open one. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Or are you banned from Getter?
Well, it just
permanently canceled.
It's just saying I can't open. I don't know what the hell's going on. I mean, I got to download the app on my phone. I'm doing it over the laptop and something's happening. So long story, boring, to quote the great Brian Ernst. I more or less I got a message from this lady saying, you having COVID and going out and performing, you're killing people like my grandma who died from COVID. And I'm like, you know what? That grandma shit, it's not playing well with me. Cause I'm gonna tell you right now, fuck your grandmas, fuck your grandpas. If they're concerned, stay in the fucking house. But right now, you're ruining today's youth and their lives. Like, these people are going to be so fucked up growing up because of this, because of grandma and grandpa. You think grandma and grandpa were thinking of us when they were chain smoking in front of our face, blowing smoke, saying the N-word, drive around without catalytic converters? They didn't give a fuck about us. Literally,
you're making them sound cool.
Throwing shit out the window. I remember my aunt throwing garbage out the window, littering. They didn't give a fuck about us. So fuck grandma in her last couple days on earth. Fuck her. I have a whole life to live. Let them stay in the house in their bubble and get Grubhub. Let us live our lives. Let these kids live their lives. Fuck your grandparents.
What if we ever had a situation where the kids have to protect grandma? Like it used to be, the only time we would protect grandma is if a kid has the flu and it's like, hey, probably not a good idea to see grandma today. Maybe next week we'll see grandma. But when has there ever been a time, even pandemics in the past, that were affecting, you did things for the welfare of children. And instead, now the kids, the 5-year-olds, the 8-year-olds have to sacrifice for boomers and for like 70 and 80-year-olds. Go fuck yourselves. That's not what this deal is. We're not out here to protect baby boomers who ruin this country anyways. Sorry, Ken Mosca, but it's kind of true.
No, they fucked up our life. I mean, they didn't. You think all the decisions they were making back then was to better our lives, our generation? Like, no, they're not. They didn't give a fuck. They didn't care. So why should we? Fuck them in their last few remaining years on life. Stay in the house. Let me go live my life. Let the little kid go to school without a mask on. Let him go play outside without a mask on.
No. And by the way, while we're at it, so I'm an equal opportunity offender. Fuck millennials too. Even though I think that's what the name of this podcast should be, is fuck millennials. But so over the weekend, I was down in Kentucky and Tennessee.
Oh yeah, I saw that on it.
And I was down on, a friend, they have a farm down in Southern Kentucky. And you start looking around at the chickens and the cows. And basically you start looking around at these farms, these places you pass by, and you're like, this is, so when Patton Oswalt, that spunk bubble, goes and says, well, why doesn't everybody just stay home and order Fuddruckers? How does that Fuddruckers burger get to your doorstep, you motherfucker? I mean, like, he presses a button and all of a sudden in 45 minutes, food just shows up. That's not how it is. So you start getting a real appreciation. That's why a lot of road comics do get that appreciation when they are literally on the road and they're driving through these small towns. And you start looking at farms and cows and everything. You're like, wow, this is America. And the problem is my generation and the millennials have been brainwashed into thinking that everybody needs to go to college, and they go to college and they get this. Oh, that was my alarm to say I need to go do my podcast with Chad. But these millennials were told to go to college and get your meaningless gender studies or communications degrees. So now we have a bunch of college graduates who can't even scratch their ass without needing to look it up on Google. And you really have no young plumbers, no welders who are under 60. You don't have anybody who's of an electrician. They're all older. So these trades are almost going away because because you just told all these college kids to go get a communications degree, and hey, maybe someday you'll make $30,000 a year as a PR person for a chip company. It's just ridiculous.
I went to college for 7 years, Kent State University. I have a general studies major. I never used it one time, not once. Everything I've ever gotten is just word of mouth or who I knew. And I encourage any youth, especially the youth that are listening to this podcast, go to a trade school, learn a trade. Absolutely. I would, if I could do it all over again, that's what I would do. I really would. Don't get me wrong. College was a great experience, and it was for just the social aspect of it. And, meeting people, friends I have to this day are my friends, and, they are lifelong friends, but the degree is worthless. It's garbage. I wasted all that money. Luckily, I declared myself independent right out of, so I was able to get so many grants and financial aid that I was able to like pretty much go to college for free. But, that's not for everybody.
When they start getting really pissed, so my generation, who's now at least a decade out of college, are going like, why can't Biden wipe out our student loans? They're called student loans, not gifts, loans. And we could debate about how many times that, the forcing everybody to go to college and everything, but they're student loans. It's buyer beware. Why I didn't finish college is because I knew I wasn't going to fit, or why I didn't, that I wasn't going to graduate, that I'm really not the smartest guy in the world, and I'm not college material. So why should I put myself into 5-6 figures worth of debt in college for a degree in something that I'm not guaranteed that I'm going to end up in that major? So I'm not going to do that. And you have enough of these kids that they got their degree in this, but they're working in completely different field. Now they're pissed off that that parts of their paycheck or half of their paycheck goes to their student loans. Yeah, you should have known that when you were 18, but you were brainwashed into thinking that, oh, well, I'm just going to go to college and maybe someday I'll figure out what it is I want to major in. Great. Then you graduate and you're like, well, shit, yeah, nothing going on. I guess I'm going to bartend over TGI Fridays until I get my next gig. It's such a scam. And I don't understand why more people aren't seeing that.
Well, I think if anything, the last couple of years has done for most people in the middle or on the fence, it's opened their eyes to all the bullshit. Did you happen to see, and I was going to save this for my podcast tomorrow with Tyler, but the fucking January 6th goddamn speeches from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? Whoa, you're cut out.
Oh, sorry, my cord cut out. No, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
She compared 9/11 and Pearl Harbor to January 6th. 5,000 people had fucking died in those tragedies, and she compared January 6th to that. One person died, was shot by a Capitol police officer.
Black guy with this mask below his nose. I thought that's a grandma killer too. What kind of hero has their mask below their nose? Yeah. Hashtag wear a mask, hashtag mask up, hashtag over the nose.
And the rest of the people fucking just messed up Nancy Pelosi's desk. Oh my God, candlelight vigil. I got to be honest with you. I fucking loved every minute of January 6th. I loved watching those politicians scurry on the ground. It was my favorite thing to watch. Those politicians got a taste of their own medicine in their own fucking bubble, fucking over the American people left and right. And they were on the ground fearing for their lives. I loved it. And no one died. So I'm like, that was perfect for me.
Yeah, January 6th, they're trying to make it because you heard Kamala Harris going, there are some dates we know in infamy. 9/11, December 7th, 1941, January 6th. And the thing is, they look at January 6th the same way a Christian would if their church got attacked. For progressives and for anybody who is all about the state, the capital, the U.S. Capitol is their church. That's like attacking the Vatican to them. And the threats and attacks on democracy. Well, fuck democracy. We're a representative republic in the United States. We're not a true democracy. and by the way, those same people who are really upset about a democracy, they're upset that democracy was in threats and in danger, had no problem with wanting to throw aside democracy and claiming completely false accusations against Trump, saying that the Russians helped him get elected just 4 years earlier. I mean, they're the same people. You love democracy so much. Well, in 2016, the democratic process played out. And what they do, they spent 4 years bitching about Russia. So you don't really like democracy. You only like when the democracy works in your favor.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, you don't even have to be a conspiracy theorist on this. If they were so concerned about the Capitol, they would have had the National Guard protecting the Capitol at that time. They wanted that to happen. There was such an Olay moment when they were letting people in. It's like, come on in. It was such a
and also by feds too.
Yeah.
So for people who know about what's going on, that I have normie friends that just kind of like, oh, January 6th, like, what do you think about that? A bunch of white supremacists. I'm like, look at a lot of the videos that were going on with January 6th, where they were having people going, we're going inside the Capitol. Well, that person had an earpiece. I don't see a lot of white supremacists wear earpieces in their ear and have like tight haircuts. They're feds. They're federal agents. And that's what happened in Michigan with the plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan. They were mostly feds that were setting up patsies just so they can say that they stopped a terrorist plot to capture the governor of Michigan. It's the same way that they were doing during the Bush years, where they would have this young Muslim kid. And they would say, hey, you ever think about committing some kind of terror attack? No, not really. And that they were pressing this kid about saying about how white people are this and democracy and this and this and this, to the point where he's like, maybe it is kind of justified. Aha, we got the terrorists. And then the feds can have a party and say, hey, we stopped the terrorists today. Yeah, you entrapped them. Yeah. And that's what January 6th was. As much as I liked some of what came out of that, it ended up being a psyop, and that they're all going to use that as a campaign ad. You notice that's all that was. January 6th, all those speeches, that wasn't about democracy is in danger and we need to come together. It was the most divisive speech. That they loved January 6th. The left and higher up progressives in the government loved January 6th because they will use that constantly. They're going to use that all the way through the 2022 and 2024 election about how dare you? You can't vote for these people because they didn't think January 6th was the worst day since 9/11. In fact, some actually say it's the worst thing to happen, even worse than 9/11.
So the guy who didn't want to die by catching on fire, he decided to jump out of out of the World Trade Center because he didn't want to burn alive, was worse than messing up Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Yeah, that's not as bad. No, because that wasn't a threat to democracy. That was a foreign, thing, and it happened on just one day. But by the way, I think it was over the summer, maybe early fall. The Babylon Bee, you know about the Babylon Bee, right?
Yeah.
They're the kind of right-wing parody website like The Onion. And they had a thing where it was a funny piece that said, it was something along the lines of Democrats want appealing to the calendar to make every day January 6th. And then a few months later, what comes out the week of January 6th, the 1-year anniversary? I think it was the Washington Post said, every day is January 6th. Every day there's a threat to democracy. Every day. So January 6th is every day.
Yawn.
Like, yeah, no, it's not. No, it's not. And most people don't think that way, but that's inside the Beltway stuff that people are. What's sad is people actually fall for this. Good Lord.
People are dumb and followers, but like I said, a lot of people are coming around on it. It's coming around. And
it's what happens when you start fucking with parents too. That's the big one. Is you saw that at Virginia, and that's going to be one I think a lot of people, not to get too political and stuff, but I think a lot of people are going to look back to the 2021 election and what went around that, and what the Terry McAuliffe, who ran for governor, basically said. And you're starting to see this around, that these teachers and teachers unions really don't think parents should have a say in what their kids' future is like as far as school goes. They think that they own your children, and what they should teach you, and not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, but about the gender stuff, the critical race theory, all this kind of stuff that's happening in these schools. And they feel that because parents may actually have differing opinions on some of the stuff, that they might be indoctrinated when they go home, when in reality they want to do the indoctrinating. Well, that was a huge wake-up call to a lot of parents, and especially in Loudoun County, which is actually traditionally a very blue county. And when you have a transgender kid, a boy who identified as a woman who wore a skirt into a bathroom, then he rapes a 13-year-old girl and does it at another school after he's transferred. And yet the parents are called domestic terrorists and white supremacists for bringing up these problems in schools. People woke up, and I think this is going to continue. That people are waking up to a lot of this stuff, and it's going to lead that momentum. That's why they have to keep bringing up January 6th, because it shies away from the horrible job numbers, the fact that Biden can't control COVID. No one can control COVID. That was the point.
I'm going to shut COVID down. I'm going to shut COVID down.
I'm not going to shut the country down. I'm going to shut the virus down. Record levels. Now, again, I'm fine, but it's also proven the vaccines don't really work that well. Masks are completely useless. Everything is falling apart for them. So what do they have to do? They have to keep reminding you that January 6th was a day.
Meanwhile, Chicago, no one's in school. They should have went to fucking Chicago saying, get these these kids in school. The long-term repercussion, the psychological effects and all the shit from this is just going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, think about all the kids. Think about the kids who are like 4 or 5 years old. They don't think
school shootings a problem now? Good.
Exactly.
Wait. It's going to get worse.
No, here's how it gets better is if you just homeschool your kids. So if there's a school shooting, it's just a Chris Benoit situation where, where everybody's. But I mean, we're in a weird situation where you see that there are toddlers. There are like 3 and 4 year olds who you're supposed to at that time pick up nonverbal cues. That's where you're starting to learn and develop. And all these teachers and guidance counselors with masks on, and the parents have to wear masks and everything when they leave the house. These kids are so far behind in their development that they're essentially, and I'm not making light of it, but it really is enabling the autism and the Asperger syndrome that's happening with a lot of these kids. And it's playing into a big time role going forward that kids are going to join, kindergarten and first grade and not know how to react because they've been told, hey, you're not allowed to see people because they could be carrying germs. We're just going to create a generation of germaphobes. What the hell kind of society is that?
Yeah. Bunch of Howie Mandels running around. You know what's funny?
COVID.
It reminds me of a Daniel Tosh joke. He's just like, yeah, I had sex with a teacher once when I was in school. And you're like, well, that's because you were homeschooled. It doesn't matter either way. So
I thought you were going to say a Danny Tanner joke.
Shout out to the late, great Bob Saget. We lost a legend in the game, a true pioneer, a guy who was beloved by everybody. A guy who's been around pretty much my whole life. I mean, there he is.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, Dave Coulier. I want you to know. Sorry.
It's just scratch your nails down someone else's back. I hope you feel it. Oh, can you feel it? It's funny. Aaron Berg had a great tweet that I would have had if I wasn't driving, because I was driving back from Tennessee and Kentucky yesterday, and my wife's like, holy crap, Bob Saget died. And if I wasn't driving, I would have had what Aaron tweeted, which was, rest in peace, Bob Saget. Big fan of old time rock and roll and Kathmandu. I get that every time whenever a celebrity dies, and it's just, I'll put something out there where it's like somebody who has a similar name. Like I think I said I did that last week with Betty White. When Betty White died, I put a picture of B. Arthur, and you're just gonna have some retard out there going, that's B. Arthur. I could see why you got him confused, but it's not Betty White. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. Sorry, I put up the wrong picture on a complete accident.
I've actually got to meet Bob Saget a handful of times. I've actually had conversation. Very super nice guy. And, everything you're reading about him is 100% true. And especially if he finds out you're a comic, he kind of really goes out of his way to make you're a part of this. Like I was like in a group circle once. I have a couple Bob Saget stories. One of them's kind of funny and a couple is not fairly that interesting. We're like in a group circle once outside the Hollywood Improv talking or whatever. And, someone introduced me to him as a comic. He goes, oh, hey, how are you? Where are you from? And he was like really friendly and asking. And we started talking, and he was telling stories, and he was like very engaging, and he would like point to me. And so like I always appreciated that about him, because he was on some iconic shows, whether, and I wasn't a huge fan of Full House or America's Home Video, but he's been around forever, fucking forever. And
Yeah.
he loved comedy. But my first introduction, he was actually one of the first celebrities I met when I moved to LA 2004. I moved there because of the girl I talked about a million times, my ex-girlfriend Sarah, and we broke up like a month after I was there, and I was devastated. And I just started doing open mics, and I just go to the Hollywood Improv every night because I had nowhere to go. I had nothing to do, and I was just sitting at a table drinking, and I probably looked like I was crying all day. I was just sitting there by myself, and Bob Saget was in the table over with some people. I didn't even know who they were, and he kind of looked over at me. He's like, "Hey, man, you okay?" And I go, "Yeah, I just broke up with my ex-girlfriend. She just broke up with me. I moved out here for her." He's like, "Don't worry about it. I guarantee one day she'll be fat." And I thought that was really funny. So I never forgot that.
Was he right?
No, she looks fantastic. He was wrong, but
well, then fuck Bob Saget then.
But it was just what I needed to hear at that time, and it was kind of funny.
That's a great story. It's you hear about a lot of this stuff about with Bob Saget that, he was the dirty comedian, and he was on a family friendly show, and it was just like, that's who he always has been. It's just he realized it was a nice paycheck just to shut his mouth for a little bit.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? All you got to do is give us a little bit more money, and then we'll shut our fucking mouths.
Yeah, give me money. I'll be quiet.
Probably that's why I just spout off like I do, is because I don't make a lot of money. But if you said, Tony, if you stop tweeting and you stop going on podcasts and doing rants about COVID and everything, we'll give you $1 million a year. You won't hear shit from me anymore.
Yeah.
Just buy me off at that point. I know it's not ethical. I'm being kind of facetious, but
hush money is a real thing. And if you don't believe me, try it with me. I won't say a fucking word about whatever you don't want me to talk about.
That's right. And that's kind of what with Bob Saget, that, he was very mainstream. And in order to make that kind of money, and especially a show like that I'm sure right now is probably in reruns. So he just made a ton of money from that. America's Funniest Home Videos and How I Met Your Mother, on top of doing a little bit of directing. He directed Dirty Work, which of course we lost Norm a few months ago.
Yeah. How did Artie outlive both them?
Artie fucking Lang is still alive right now. How did that happen?
The deal with the devil was signed, sealed, and delivered.
He's killing a bunch of people that appeared on his podcast already, I think.
Yeah, Bob Saget was on there. I listened to that episode, actually.
It was a good episode too, I thought.
Yeah.
It's basically Bob Saget talking to Artie, because Artie can't really do an interview, and yeah, it's not very good. But yeah, I know it's like what's interesting about Bob Saget is that when his career, when after America's Funniest Home Videos and after doing Full House, so now you have Bob Saget after he directs Dirty Work, he appears in Half Baked, he does the, Did You Ever Suck Dick for Weed? And then he goes through that transition period where the people who grew up watching him on Full House are now going to comedy clubs and paying money. So he's like, all right, I'll go back on the road. And then he does the Aristocrats and does one of the filthiest Aristocrats jokes that he's on there for. And you go, are you kidding me? That's Bob Saget doing that. And because of that, he got a new audience, completely different audience.
O&A too. He was on the Virus Tour, so he had the O&A fans too.
Mm-hmm. He was actually my first, outside of the O&A Traveling Virus, he was the first comic I ever went to go see. It was Bob Saget.
Really?
It was right when the Aristocrats happened. And because I'm only 33 right now, so I wasn't old enough to really go to comedy clubs and go see some of the greats back in the day. So by the mid 2000s, I was able to go to comedy clubs, and although I saw him do a theater tour, saw Bob Saget at a theater. And I mean, from what I remember, it was all right. It wasn't, he was never my favorite comic, because he did a lot of smoking weed jokes. And I thought they were pretty kind of lowest common denominator, but I always liked him personally and wouldn't have minded getting a chance to see him if he was doing club dates. But I guess that's not happening anymore. And I can't see Norm anymore either.
I was supposed to feature for Dave Coulier at the Pittsburgh Improv.
Mm-hmm.
And it was booked. It was in the books, ready to go. I had the hotel ready. Everything was good. And then fucking Fuller House just premiered on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a phone call from Winston, the booker, going, Winston's going, hey, Chad, listen, Dave sold out all his shows. I go, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, well, he's bringing an opener, so we got to cut you. And I'm like, oh, you got to be shitting me. I was like, fuck, I
Didn't
needed
even
that.
pay you, or
No, well, it was like a week out, so it's not like he fucked me over the day of.
oh
So fuck Dave Coulier. That's all I'm
yeah,
trying.
fuck him, and fuck John Stamos. I will say I'm surprised Jodie Sweetin wasn't the first one to die from that show.
She has big cans.
She really does.
Yeah, you know who's
That's
friends with
probably
her?
why she would have drowned if it wasn't for those tits.
No shit. You know who's friends with her?
Who?
Tripoli. Sam Tripoli's friends with her.
Hmm.
She's a recovering addict, so I think they did AA meetings and stuff together.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That yeah, it's weird because okay, so far this year, you know, we end 2021 with John Madden died, we had Betty White dies, and then what do
Sidney
we do?
Poitier.
We start out January. We have Peter Bogdanovich died. We have Sidney Poitier. Yeah, well, what's weird though, outside of Bob Saget, because I know there's a lot of people questioning, did he get his booster? Is that what caused that? You know,
They're saying December 4th he got a booster.
Hmm.
So,
you know, just saying.
we're just putting it out there, all you conspiracy theorists, and you can sign up to our Patreons and let's catch Tim Dillon now that we're talking conspiracy theory.
With somebody like Norm, for example, Norm's was shocking, but then you realize it wasn't shocking because it was shocking because we didn't know, but he had been suffering for a long time. And I noticed with a lot of these celebrity deaths the last couple of years because of the COVID stuff, is that when you have a lot of them dying, it's not like there's been a lot of them that have been just so sudden. Like there weren't really car accidents or anything. You know, Betty White was almost 100. Peter Bogdanovich was in his 80s. Sidney Poitier was 94. Cloris Leachman was 94. Gavin McLeod was 90. And it's weird because we're getting to the point where these are people that we grew up with. And it kind of represents our own mortality. It's very morbid to make that connection, but it is odd when you start seeing people that you grew up with who are dying of old age.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I watch Betty White all the time. Golden Girls is on, and Mary Tyler Moore, and go, oh shit, she died. She's almost 100. And it kind of starts setting that in. And I kind of looked back to where there was that time in 2016 where David Bowie died. Then right after was Glenn Fry. And then a couple of months later, Prince. And these were people that I think a lot of baby boomers that you kind of grew up with them, and Gen Xers. And then you go, wow, man, there are people that we admired growing up are now dropping off. So when's our turn?
Right.
It's a weird, morbid thought, but you know, especially when you see Danny Tanner, America's dad, ends up passing away at 65, you go, we don't have much time on this earth, do we?
Well, to really put it in perspective for me, and this is fucking crazy. So I'm in Miami next week. I'm doing shows. I'm doing this really cool show. It's like the #1 show. It's been going on for like 13 years. It's called The Have Nots, a comedy. It's at the Umbrella, and they always get good acts. I got a Meta come in. There's me. You can get tickets Saturday, January 15th, 8 o'clock. If you go to the Haves Not a Comedy, you can go ahead and purchase some tickets. Always packed, sells out. But there it is.
There's $10. That's not bad.
$10. It's right on Sunset Drive, 5701 Sunset Drive, South Miami. So
is Ken Mosca coming out to that?
I don't think so.
Because I know he's in Florida right now.
Yeah, I think he's in Orlando. I think we might be meeting up with him tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. So, anyways, I wanted to tag on a Sunday show because I'm on that side of town. So my friend Stephanie Wood, Comedic, says, oh, I know this guy, Bobby Mack. He runs a room on Sundays. So I reach out to him through Instagram and he goes, yeah, I have you closing it out. He gave me a number amount, how much money. It's over in West Palm. I go, perfect. And he sends me a message confirming that Tuesday. So Saturday, I'm at the Laughing Comedy Cafe in Fort Myers, and I'm talking to these younger comics. I go, yeah, I'm doing the Umbrella show, and I'm doing the Red Light show. He's like, no, you're not. I go, what do you mean? He's like, you didn't hear? I go, what? He's like, Bobby was killed. I go, what? That day he confirmed with me he was killed. I don't know how. I think a car wreck or something. So
Holy
literally
crap.
He sent me a message, and later that day he's dead. I was like, what the fuck? That really woke me up. I was like, dude, and I showed him the message. I was like, look.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So I'm not
So
doing
you're not
that.
doing the gig.
Yeah, the Sunday show is not on.
Not happening.
Yeah, I took it off the website. The booker died.
Oh wow, my God.
Surreal. It was very, very weird. I was like, I just talked to the fucking guy.
Now, what bookers would you want to die?
On behalf of my brother Earl Skakel, Dante from Entertainment, Golden Artist Entertainment. I think he's top of the list.
It's a pretty hack question, but I'll just ask just because, and I see a lot of people in mourning. But what was the celebrity that died that you just kind of like? I don't want to say like you cried over, but like as an adult, it just kind of shook you and you bummed you out for the day.
Well, Norm was one of them for sure.
Yeah,
Out of the gate.
Norm was one of the biggest for me, I think, if not the biggest. Was yours Roddy Piper?
Roddy Piper fucked with me. Norm. What else?
Because I remember talking to you that day when Roddy Piper died, and because we didn't know what happened, everything, and you were like really bummed out that day about it.
Yeah, I mean, he was my childhood hero. It's what I wanted to do, is talk shit on a microphone, not be a comedian. I wanted to do what Roddy did. I wanted to piss off people. I want people to throw things while I was coming to the ring. That's what I wanted. Yeah, Roddy was a big one, man. He was a huge influence on me, and very entertaining dude. I'm trying to think another one that just sticks out that you're like, oh fuck.
Because honestly, I don't really care
Honestly,
that much about
Kobe.
celebrities.
I wasn't even a Kobe fan, but Kobe, for some reason, or I don't know, it just like, it was weird because I was never a Kobe fan. It was almost like Tom Brady. I didn't like Kobe until after his career. I didn't like Tom Brady until he went to the Patriots for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, Kobe was one of those where when he died, it was odd because it was kind of like, whoa, wait, what? Yeah. Kobe?
It was too sudden and weird, and he was he was in my life my whole life,
Like I remember when I'm trying to think, like with athletes, because there's not a ton that die before their prime or anything. I remember when Bobby Phills, when he died,
yeah,
he was in the car crash where he was drag racing for Charlotte with David Wesley, and Drazen Petrovic was another one that he was on his way up to being a pretty good ball player for the New Jersey Nets at the time. But yeah, when it comes to celebrity deaths, I'm not really bummed out. But I think with Norm was one of those where I don't know how much more he could have given us. And he was also one of those where when he died, I went down the rabbit hole, but I think a lot of people did because they didn't appreciate Norm. And I made sure to appreciate Norm enough on this planet where when he died, I can go down the rabbit hole and have enough where he may as well still be alive because I'll watch him enough times.
That's like Brody too. Brody left so much shit out there. And one just popped in my mind, big time. MCA, Adam Yauch, Beastie Boys.
Mm-hmm.
That fucked me up a little bit. I was on the radio and I was a little rattled. Dude, I'm going through this list of people who died recently, and I didn't even Bismarcky, Jackie Mason, Charlie Watts,
DMX,
Michael K. Williams. I mean, so many fucking people. I mean, it's just Robert Downey Sr. But that's if you're old, I get it. But some of these people are like very young. Richard Donner from Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. It wasn't. Didn't Richard Donner? Wasn't he the director of Superman?
Yes,
with Christopher Reeve
and Superman 2. Pretty sure 3 too, if I'm not mistaken.
But
Gavin McLeod. I mean, there's so many of them.
Who's left from Mary Tyler Moore? Because we still had a bunch left, and they all died last year. I think only maybe John Amos, and he was only on like the first 2 seasons of Mary Tyler Moore, or maybe 1 season. Man. Everybody else has dropped dead because Cloris Leachman and Rhoda died a few years ago. Valerie Harper.
Well, what's funny is, you remember they did those remakes? Jimmy Kimmel and Norman Lear brought like Different Strokes back, Facts of Life, All in the Family,
mm-hmm.
and celebrities, played the iconic roles. Well, each episode, somebody would come out from the original cast, and then when they did the Different Strokes one, the only one that came out was Todd Bridges, who we hung out with. Because everyone on the show is dead. Every single one. Conrad Bain, Gary Coleman, Dana Plato, Charlotte Ray. Everyone's dead.
Yeah, and by the way, Conrad Bain was the last remaining one besides Todd Bridges. Gary Coleman died in 2010. I think Dana Plato. Didn't Dana Plato say she was really she went on Howard Stern and then the next day she's dead?
I don't remember the Dana Plato. I don't remember the timeline of Dana Plato.
We lost
Although-
Screech last year too.
Dustin Diamond dead.
Do you have any Screech stories with him, other than him wanting to get coke?
Just the cocaine one. I think I've told that. There is Dustin Diamond. He was like he lived in Michigan.
Wisconsin, yeah,
Wait,
just outside of Milwaukee. He was.
Well,
up
I
there.
told this story a million times. When Pete asked me to feature for him, my whole goal was to blow him out of the water because I heard he was an asshole, but he turned out to be a really nice guy. Like, he ended up hanging out and talking. He was real down to earth. So I'm like, all right, fuck this.
Yeah, sometimes it's kind of fun because you see those people who have good stories. Like even Skippy Handelman, even Mark Price is a guy that his dad was pretty big in like booking and acting in the Catskills back in the day. Very influential that a lot of people don't know. And obviously his son ends up being on a sitcom in the 80s and not really doing too much after that. But there are certain stories about people that they've run into. And somebody like, you think about it with Screech, not only was he in Saved by the Bell, but just before Saved by the Bell, he was in the first season of the Wonder Years. People forget about that.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And then there's another there. Then he did a lot of other child acting, and there's actually a commercial for, oh God, what is it? I'm trying to remember what it was, but he was the son, and his dad was William Sanderson, who was the Larry, Daryl, and Daryl.
Oh wow,
from Newhart.
Did you hang out with one of them?
Yeah, I know him. I actually know him. We had lunch. He's actually gonna be on my podcast in a couple of weeks.
Which one? What did you hang out with?
I hung out with the guy who talked with Larry.
Larry. Okay.
Yeah, and his brother Daryl and his other brother Daryl. Just stupid show, but it was pretty silly at that time. But yeah, no, William Sanderson has a book, and he's a good dude.
Yeah, how did you become friends with Larry, Daryl, like you're Larry from Daryl and Daryl?
Because I booked him for an interview because he had a book, an independent book out, and they were trying to get the word out about his career and stuff, and ended up. And at the end of the interview, I was telling him, I'm actually going to be in your neck of the woods.
This guy, he's the one with the hat on, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's in Deadwood. He's in a lot of different things, and I just so happen to be in that area and he lives in Harrisburg. You know who also lives in Harrisburg is the guy who played God, it wasn't Dr. Johnny Fever. It was one of them on WKRP. Was it Howard Hessman?
Venus Flytrap? Lonnie Anderson?
Oh, it is Howard Hessman. Yeah, it was Dr. Johnny Fever. He lives in Harrisburg.
He still lives there?
Yeah, he's 80 years old and lives in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. But yeah,
get him on the show.
Yep. Yeah. Well, what's the rush? He's only in his 80s. I only like people who are on in their 90s. But yeah, going through Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I said, hey, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods. So his wife is basically his manager right now and said, yeah, let's go out to lunch. We know this really nice place. And, I'm looking at the menu going, you better be making good Newhart residuals because that's so fucking. I think our meal had to have been like $200+ for just like 4 people, and it was a lunch thing, and no problem. Yeah, no, we got it taken care of. So nice lunch with him.
So he picked up the pet tab.
Oh yeah, paid in cash too.
Wow, look at Daryl or Larry.
It must be all that. Oh boy, why am I blanking on everything? What was the movie with it wasn't Thunderdome. He was in one of those movies in the early 80s.
Mad Max?
He was in Blade Runner.
Oh yeah, 1981.
Yeah, so the residuals must have came really nicely from that. So, but yeah, those random celebrities but they're not really like people that well. Like I'll pull up the picture here again. My autograph of Sam Jones.
Oh yeah, Flash Gordon. He's the best.
He's another guy who just is like really aware of who he is. Because I mean, he was in a childhood cult movie from 40 years ago, and is still doing autograph signings and pictures and all these card collecting places all these years later. I mean, look, honestly, if I were that guy, it's that old story of, would you rather be a one-hit wonder? Would you rather be Aha or Kajagoogoo, or be a a consistent working musician, comedian, actor, but you're not really known for anything. You're making money, you're making a good living, you're in things, but you don't have that recognizable character. Or are you the guy that you want to be recognized as somebody? Like, for example, you could be like Marty Sullivan, like Superhost.
Shout out Superhost.
He's dead. Another one who died. So like, what would you rather be? And I think for a lot of people, you would take on me. You would be too shy, hush, hush. You'd rather do that.
No, I mean, obviously, I have an affection for those old guys and like those one hit people. Did you ever see this sketch I did? It never went anywhere, and I love it. Sometimes you just have to do a sketch for you. Did you ever see me do this?
Oh yeah, I've seen this.
Superhost 2000. If you don't live in the Cleveland area, this won't make much sense, but it was a local guy who hosted horror films. But you can find it on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/sitdownzoomock. It's only got like 1,400 views, but I was
Didn't
proud
I
of
text you a Superhost thing recently where it was, oh no, you know what it was is Superhost, it was a guy whose name was Marty Sullivan, and I think he did sales and he did some on-air work, but he was a kids show host, and he would do Three Stooges cartoons and movies and everything. And I think we know the story where there was it Kennedy when he got shot, or was it somebody else that he had his Superhost costume and he had to put a sport coat and tie over it. and this is Marty Sullivan, breaking news here. And then there was another one where I think he was doing Superhost, where he was filming, and then he had to do the same thing, but it was Black Monday back in 1987 when the stock market crashed.
That's hilarious. And he would do these terrible, and I mean, they were terrible, but at the time when we were kids, I thought they were fucking genius.
Oh God, the sketches. Convoy sketch.
Look at this. He's supposed to be in a semi driving a truck, and they're doing C.W. McCall's Convoy word for word with toy action figures and cardboard cutouts. And this was on TV. This was our TV.
Oh yeah. Look at all those those graphics weren't even good for what, 1974 maybe.
It's like a grown adults playing trucker. That's look at this. They put like a toy. Now, when I was a kid, I thought this was awesome. I don't know why. I was like, look at that truck.
It's not even focused.
But they basically just parodied the song in the video.
Yeah, did it for kids. Yeah, little toy trucks that they had. Oh, well, got to go with the dance break.
And these guys were just guys who worked at Channel 43. They're like camera guys, key grips.
Was that Tom Petty on the far left?
This had to be 1973.
Is that Richard Keel in the middle?
I mean, look at this. That's supposed to be the semi he's in. That's Superhost.
But every town had one of these. So whenever we mention, like, I know this is a Cleveland thing, but every town had one of these local Svengoolie type of hosts.
By the way, that was B-roll from White Line Fever with Jan Michael Vincent. They take a lot of video. That's the Blue Mule from White Line Fever.
Oh, we gotta go with the dance break again.
This is what Mike Polk wanted. This was Mike Polk's I want to be this guy.
Instead, he got COVID.
That's Aaron McBride. That's
Ryan Dalton,
Adam Richard, Zachariah Durr. There's Mike Polk.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
This is
That's
brutal.
Hilarious.
Yeah, go watch Superhost's Convoy if you're watching this. I can't play the volume because I don't know how to do it, but you'll see how bad it is. It's pretty good, though. It's so bad, it's hilarious.
And then he used to have this fake war with the competing show across down the dial or on the other end of the TV, which was a show called Big Chuck and Houlihan. And for folks out of town, and he would make a parody of them and call them Large Charles and Hooligan.
Ooh.
You like that? What a burn that was.
I mean, that's called a rivalry right there.
Oh God, not Ajax Liquor Store. Oh yeah, the opening. You want to talk about campy?
That building's still intact right there.
Sure is.
The building still looks the same. Channel 8 building,
My
Fox.
wife used to work there. Yeah.
There's the whole.
That scared me as a kid.
Me
I'm not
too.
kidding.
I know.
And I was also scared of the laugh too.
The laugh was pretty
that.
scary. It was pretty scary. I
Was that Dick Goddard?
I can't believe I got to film a sketch with these guys.
Were you on their show back in the day?
Oh yeah. We all dressed up as Boy Scouts last call Cleveland, and we sat in the stands.
Yep. I did the same thing when I was in the Cub Scouts. That's when I was on. That was right around when Goulardi died. Is when I was on Big Chuck and Little John.
That had been really expensive to make back in the day. That little claymation.
Yeah, that was all. Yeah, well, because if that was Big Chuck and Little John, that had to have been in the early '80s. So that was probably around Clash of the Titans. So they probably put that together right around Clash of the Titans time.
Is that what it was?
I'm assuming that that's probably what it was, because technology kind of upgraded as the '80s wore on, and when you saw that very, very campy looking claymation or stop motion or whatever that was.
Here's a terrible sketch we did. It was called Michael Stanley Superstar. And Big Chuck was the commissioner. And we were the Super Friends, He-Man, Super Mario. And I played MacGyver. There I am talking to Big Chuck. You can't hear the volume, but it's out there.
Was that? Oh, that's the Flats, isn't that?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
MacGyver. We had Captain Planet, Greatest American Hero. We were just like running around the flats like maniacs, dressed like this. Did you ever see it?
I've seen bits of this,
Yeah.
but
Running through shooters.
did people know what was going on? Did you
No.
say, "Hey, everybody, we're filming a sketch, so act surprised"?
Guerrilla filming. This is pretty funny. Michael Stanley's trying to get away like he's an evil villain. It's so stupid.
Boy, the Flats looks a lot different than that.
It doesn't look like that anymore.
No, it's very corporate now.
Anyways, enough video watching.
That's good stuff.
Great stuff.
It's good stuff. But,
Tony, where can people watch Check Your Brain?
well, they can listen, because I don't really have much of a visual element other than what we do here, but free every Wednesday. You could get it on iTunes or Google, Spotify, wherever you get your finer podcasts. And then I have my rants and raves and early access to guests on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Tony Mazur. Go check that out. And I've got, so here's what I have for guests this week that I'm interviewing. I'm interviewing a guy talking about how Hollywood is just caved to the woke culture. He's got a new book coming out. Then I'm talking. So have you heard about this book by Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? It's called The Real Anthony Fauci. And it's out there, and it's the biggest book in the country. And it's been the #1 book and the most sold book in the country for probably last month. But you wouldn't know about it because it's being censored on New York Times bestseller lists, and Amazon's been suppressing it. Well, I'm actually interviewing the publisher of the book. I'm trying to get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. To talk about it.
I gotta be honest with you, Robert. He's pretty rough to listen to.
Yeah,
his voice is bad. It's really
he's got that southern, that like New Orleans style accent and everything,
Yeah.
and gravelly and everything. But I've got the publisher of the book talking about how everything's kind of been censored over time and what they're doing to combat that. And yet, he's not on Good Morning America. He's not on CBS Morning to talk about the book. Why not? I mean, if it's the biggest book and you want to get it out there. So he's going to talk about the censorship and the suppression of it and why people are still finding the book and still buying it right now. So that's, I'm interviewing him Wednesday. So that'll be in the next couple of weeks here.
It's pretty good. Obviously continue to sign up to Sit Down Zumach. We got some shit coming on. I'm doubling down on some podcasts this week. Again, thanks for the support for me and Tony. We do this every Monday behind the paywall, because if we put it out for free, they're going to demonetize us. They're going to censor us. They're going to shadow ban us. So we got to do it behind the fucking paywall. because you can't speak freely these days, unfortunately. And that's what it is. But thank you for the continued support. On behalf of the great Tony Mazur, I'm Chad Zumach. Good night.